All right. The July meeting of the Bryant Water Wastewater Committee. And first agenda item is the leak adjustments. And there is one that did not get written on the front page, but the details and receipts are in the packet.
They are in the packet.
I want to include that one if you're making your motion.
And everyone had their receipts and documentation, so.
And once again, we have a
Lindsay's.
department representative of the department.
Looks like two of them, wasn't it?
I think it's more than
There's
that.
one was Lindsay's.
Did we ever, what we're gonna ask the attorney about that?
We've asked them,
And what have they said?
they'll work on it, but working to fix it on their side.
Right.
So, and like I said, the turnover and maintenance fund that we deal with is all that.
Do we know why the Bryant High School had such a large,
There was a,
Baldwin and Shell,
Broke the water line?
yeah, there an
line over
explanation.
there,
There's
wasn't
an
it?
explanation in there.
okay, I see it now.
So, this one for Lindsay, is it under Lindsay Management name or?
Yes.
The very first one, it's under a person's name, but it's Lindsay property.
Lindsay property, and then there's a second one that's not on the front page, but if you look on the second document, it's under Lindsay's name.
Okay. Is it a
But it's a
different?
different, I mean, they have 600 apartments, so
So, okay,
it's gonna be per address.
per address, not name, okay, I got you.
But all the documentation's there. like-
Yes. And I did verify the leak was stopped. So,
I move in that we accept the leak adjustments as presented. I second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor?
aye.
Any opposed? Always one.
Thank you.
All right, approval of the minutes. The June meeting.
Well, I read over those earlier, and I didn't see anything that I thought was inaccurate, so I make a motion we accept the minutes as presented.
They have a motion.
Second.
Second, all in favor? Any opposed? All right. Items of report.
Everything looks good on the financial report. You're going to see that there is a deficit in water. There's quite a few capital expenditures this month. And then the infrastructure fee fund was moved to the wastewater to cover some of the debt. So you'll see that fund has dropped a little bit in cash, but that's what it's used for. So other than that, everything looks good. Any questions?
Is
You
that
swear
right?
it's correct?
Huh?
You swear it's correct?
Oh, no. I didn't put it together, so no, I'm not going to swear.
Is our revenue still at 10% above expenditures? Okay.
Anything stand out we need to review or look at? Is everything copacetic?
I like the days in cash in the wastewater fund. And the water fund, actually. Yeah.
It's always good to get there. Probably haven't seen numbers like that in 2 or 3 years.
Need a motion?
Yes.
I make a motion. We accept budget as printed.
A second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor? Any opposed? All right, so it looks like it's presentation time.
I make a motion that we do the review and understanding your wastewater master plan. Make a motion that we slide that into the agenda. It's not on there presently.
All righty. I got a motion, got a second?
A second.
All right, motion and second. All in favor? Any opposed? All right.
Okay, so if you guys remember a while ago, man, probably close to a year, we did the water master plan and adopted that capital improvement plan, and we talked a lot about how that capital improvement plan shapes the rates moving forward. You knew we were undergoing a wastewater master plan. We have now pretty much concluded it. And you're going to hear a presentation from Craig Johnson with Chris on that entire wastewater master plan, just like we did for the water master plan with Matt. I wanted to give you guys a quick rundown of the wastewater master plan and make sure we stress the importance of really how it correlates and what we really want you guys to be paying attention to as a part of the wastewater master plan. And we put together the packet so you'd have that just for reference purposes. How do I, is it up or down? Oh, I should turn it on first. Down, okay. First, we've got the key components of the wastewater master plan. Again, I'm not going to go super into this because Craig will dive more into this, but you're going to see our infrastructure assessment, which is basically just pipelines, treatment plant, lift stations, stuff like that. Data collection with our growth projections, same as water that we had. Current and future flow patterns will be a little bit different for wastewater instead of water since we've got the plant. Identification of needs, that's going to be part of our capital improvement plan, which is part of the wastewater master plan. You guys know, you'll hear us talk a lot about the CIP plan, that's capital improvement plan. Long-term strategies, the last time that we did a wastewater master plan was 2008. And we are going to, moving forward, we have to do rate studies for Act 605, moving forward every 5 years. And the capital improvement plan is really what's being based in the rate study. So it's really important that we stay up to date on our master plan, and a part of that is our capital improvement plan. So we're going to be looking to do master plans every 5 years in alignment with the rate study, just like we did this time, to make sure that we're making sure our rates are as accurate as they can be for the needs of the system. Again, capital improvement plan translates the wastewater master plan into funded projects. So it's typically near-term, mid-term, and long-term projects. The rate study only takes into account our 5-year project, which we call the near-term. So just like water, I included water in here, so we'll talk about water in a second. But the wastewater one basically just gives us the budget for major system improvements, including the treatment plant and the distribution system, collection system, yes. I have included it's at the back of the packet, but the CIP for the wastewater master plan that we're going to be going over, that Craig's going to be talking about, it's in the back of your packet, so just make sure you're able to reference that. This is not exact, but this is kind of giving you an idea where the money for the plan is going to come from. Obviously, we know we have all these needs, and how are we going to fund it? We've got about 55% of it covered by customer rates. Obviously, I mean, most of it is covered by customer rates, but we're not really funding capital projects. We're doing something different the last year or two and trying to diversify our streams of revenue and how we're funding different stuff. So 55% of our projects we're hoping to have covered with customer rates, but you'll kind of see us dive in more in that in the water capital improvement plan. Aren't going to be able to fund most of our wastewater stuff through customer rates just because of the cost of it. So that's where the 20% for municipal bonds comes in. And then we've got 10% for state loans. So some of the projects that we've done through Natural Resources Division, that state revolving fund loan, that's what we classify as the state loan. On the wastewater side, it's actually quite a bit easier to go with a municipal bond just because of all of the rules that you have to follow on the wastewater side with EPA and the health department and the state ADQ and all of that. It's a lot easier and definitely cheaper in the long run, most likely, to go with the municipal bonds. So we'll probably diversify more with municipal bonds than state loans. You can see that one little sliver there is a 1% for federal grants. I will always hold on to the hope that one day we will get a federal grant for wastewater, but our median household income is so high, and thankfully we're in a pretty good place compared to the rest of the state. We really just don't qualify for those or don't really have the need for them. 12% is impact fees. Remember that we, as a part of our rate study, we're also diving into our impact fees. So you'll definitely be hearing a lot about impact fees coming up too. So just remember how that correlates back to how this plan is funded. Impact fees can only be spent on growth-related projects, so it can't be spent on repair or replacement. We have a separate fund for that. It can't be spent on crews, or it can't be spent on salaries, things like that. It has to be spent on something that's increasing the capacity for growth or has already increased the capacity for growth. And then I've got 2% for other sources. Hopefully we'll find somewhere else that we can get money from, but we haven't found it yet. But we'll hold on to the hope that we can find it. Oh, wrong way. Again, why it matters to you, this all correlates back to the impact fee study and the rate study. We will be asking council for adoption of this, of the master plan, which includes the capital improvement plan. August 19th is our plan right now to ask them to adopt it, same way as they did with the water master plan, as the city's blueprint for our wastewater system moving forward. Once it's adopted, that capital improvement plan will be the plan that is included in the rate study to ensure that we have enough funding in our rates to cover the projects that we need in the near term. Of course, service reliability, financial stability, and community engagement, those are all obvious when we come with something like this plan. Our biggest goal this year and with this plan and all the different things that we have going on, there's a lot of moving parts right now, so community engagement is going to be really big. So we encourage you guys to get out there and talk to the community and keep them as involved as possible. We really want them to be showing up to these meetings on the front end instead of, the back end where we're passing rates and things like that. We want them to have an input at the beginning as a part of the plans. I think that's all on that's all I had on the presentation, but in the packet you'll see this blue sheet. This is our schedule for the next couple of months. So this is our master plan being presented tonight. We're hoping we're going to hold a special meeting on August 19th so that we're not asking you guys to make a recommendation on the master plan tonight. So we'll be asking for a recommendation on the 19th, and then that is the same night as council, so we're hoping that council will feel comfortable adopting it after that. After the capital improvement plan is adopted, we move into the rates and the impact fees, and you can see we've got quite a few meeting dates there. I will say the only one that I missed is we are also meeting with the Chamber of Commerce, and I had already printed these off before I added that to the schedule, so it's not on this schedule. But on September 16th, we're meeting with Chamber of Commerce too. So we're going to be bringing it to you guys on September 2nd. We're also going to be presenting it to Planning Commission, since it has to do with impact fees, and that's really all on developers. September 15th, we're going to be doing the Community Engagement Committee. Obviously, they have a huge role in communication and the public and the public's input, so we're hoping quite a bit of the public shows up to that one. And then, like I said, 16th with the Chamber in the morning, and then the 30th, we are hoping to hold a special meeting asking you guys for recommendation, and then we'll do the same thing right before council. We'll have a special meeting for you guys, seeking recommendation of the impact fee and the rate study, and then going to council hopefully for adoption September 30th. Things we're going to be doing as part of community engagement strategy, you can see updating the residents, lots of updates on social media. We're going to put this schedule out there well in advance so people know, and then we're going to be doing plenty of informational one-pagers so people know what the actual meetings are about. So by the end of it, hopefully people understand what a capital improvement plan is, how it correlates back to their rates, what a rate study is, and definitely I hope everyone can recite Act 605 by the time we pass this by memory. It includes all of you, by the way. There will be a test. The ordinance that's attached, this is just the draft ordinance that we're going to be asking council. It's the exact same as the water master plan, one that was adopted, just obviously changed for wastewater. So I wanted you guys to have a copy of that. And then you will see I wanted to bring back to everybody's attention the water master plan, capital improvement plan. This also has the dates that we have internally gone through with the years of when we hope to either get started, I think it was get started on them, not have them finished, but get started on these projects and where we're hoping to fund them as far as revenue streams. So you can see we've got a couple, the first and 1 and 2, as you'll remember, the bond that we have right now currently, that's the South Plain project tank, or South Plain tank project. And then we've got one that we're looking at doing a loan in 2028. A couple of them we're going to be, actually 3 of them we're going to be able to knock out just through savings and smart budgeting throughout the years. And then the impact fees, we're hoping to do number 6. So if you look at it, that is all of our near-term improvements for water should be, hopefully, fingers crossed, accomplished by 2028. So that would be great to have all of that knocked off of our master plan. Next page, just wanted to remind you guys, I attached the ordinance that was passed in August of 2023 with the infrastructure fee. And then I also put the page where we did our presentation on the impact, or on the infrastructure fee and the importance of the infrastructure fee and how much we'd be bringing in. And the projects that we'd be doing to cover, or I guess as the infrastructure fee would be covering these projects. So we did the meters, that loan is already set in place, we've received it, everything's good with that one. Leah Circle is currently in construction, we're pulling out on that loan. Spring Hill, we're just finishing up, I think we've got like 3 easements left to get on Spring Hill, so we're almost done with that, but that has been awarded. South Plain is in, obviously we're about to, I guess it's in design, I would say. No, okay, yeah, it's close to being in design. Yeah, but we've got the bond for it, so we've got the funding mechanism for it. And then Lift Station 5 is in design as well, so, and we'll be applying for a loan for that one. This does also increase 5% each year to help with the inflation of the interest costs and of the loans and bonds that we have to get for the interest rate. So remember that the infrastructure fee is going to be a huge help in funding these things. And then I'm not going to spend too much of any time on the CIP because Craig's going to get into it in a second. But just so you guys know, the CIP, the collection system one, the 2, 7, and 8, remember those are the Lift Station 5. They were not budgeted for that much in the infrastructure fee, but the infrastructure fee also took into account a little bit of a higher interest rate. So we're hoping that we can fund most of Lift Station 5, the actual lift station, and the force main through that infrastructure fee. If not, then, I mean, it'll just come a little bit of savings. But those are the kinds of things that are being taken into account during our rate study. So we tell them, you know, this is going to come, we want this to come from savings, this will be impact fees. They'll, you know, make it growth, if it's growth related, they take that into account with the impact fee. If it's not, obviously it has to be a part of the rates, but if we've already got a funding mechanism, they take that into account as well. So we just want to give you guys a little bit of a rundown. Again, you'll hear capital improvement plan a lot, you'll hear rate study a lot, but it's very key that we take the capital improvement plan into consideration, because that is what they will be basing the rates off of. So with that, I will turn it, oh, sorry, any questions?
The August 19th, that's a special meeting for us, right?
Yes,
And the September 30th.
yes, both at 5 o'clock.
Let me turn it.
Okay. And it's, the schedule is also posted online, and it does have the chamber one on there, so if you'd like to attend the chamber.
And you said September 19th?
30th.
September 30th.
Oh, okay.
But August 19th, special meeting at 5 o'clock for master plan and capital improvement plan recommendation.
And it is here?
Yes,
Just before council.
yeah.
Okay, 5 o'clock.
And the 2nd, 8th, and 16th of September, if we can make it.
Yeah, if you can make, I mean, definitely the 2nd, we're going to be presenting it to you guys during our regularly scheduled meeting. But we'd love for you guys to attend as many as you can to get all the input that we can get. And then special meeting on the 30th, seeking a recommendation to council.
And memorize Act 605.
Exactly. A+. Any other questions? Okay, I'm going to pass it off to Bryant.
September 30th, please. September 30th. 5
Good evening, my name's Craig Johnson, I'm with Christ Engineers, I appreciate Ryan with the intro. We're out of Little Rock, Arkansas, where our offices, or one of our offices is at. Want to just take a minute of appreciation for letting us work for you and doing the master plan. I went back and looked today in preparing for this. Our first project was in 1955, and we followed up in 56, so we've been at it here with the city of Bryant, and that's over, I think, around 30 projects, I guess, over the last 75 years. For me personally, the last one we finished up, so I did the households improvement at your wastewater treatment plant, and that was commissioned in 2017. I should have took a note. It's been a minute since I've done a presentation here, but I should have done some handouts. But I got new glasses, so I think I can see from here, which is good news. And we'll go ahead and get started with the presentation. So we'll start a little bit with the overview. I'm going to stage this about a little bit about how we went about putting this together, which was a little bit different than we've done a master plan for you in the past. But we did a series of technical memorandums, which has actually taken a little about a year and a half to work through. and just kind of stepping staff along the way as we advance through the master plan. And then we did projections that we'll talk a little bit about. If you've listened to Matt in the water plan, we did not recreate the wheel. We used the same population projections, talk a little bit about collection and treatment and the planning, about what we did with the master plan and how we developed our collection and treatment projects. In parallel with that is the wastewater treatment plant projects, the evaluation and the improvements. And then we'll wrap up with the system improvements and eventually CIP. So Mariah has introduced that, so we'll throw that acronym around a little bit this evening. So we developed 8 technical memorandums in support of the master plan. Each, if you will, branch off the main line here is the technical memorandums that were developed as part of that. So some of these were done in parallel, some were done before one or the other, and they were having to be stepped, but they're project objectives and goals, the system-wide hydraulic model update. So we'll talk a lot about your hydraulic model. Your hydraulic model was first developed in 2017 as part of your system evaluation capacity and assurance plan, CCAP. There's another acronym for you, and to address the consent administrative order that you're still currently under. We have a wastewater treatment plant unit evaluation, biosolids management, planning evaluation criteria, and it sort of goes on. But we're really going to focus tonight on really the system, two primarily technical memorandums, was the system-wide hydraulic model update, and then the wastewater treatment plant biological and hydraulic evaluation. Those two TMs really set the stage for what you'll see in the improvement sheet. And she's already stole my thunder. She already gave you the CIP to you, and you saw those big numbers at the bottom on there as well too. But that's okay. I knew they were doing something with it because they asked it for me earlier today. So here's your population projections. I don't think anybody this is surprised, depending upon what source you use. This was U.S. Census, I think, in 2024-3. You said about 22,271 as of August 2025. But again, that's always a year behind, depending upon where the census currently sits. So the first thing we did was we did an evaluation of your population projection and just to see as a basis of where it lands with your current average day. So we did that first, and you'll see here in a minute about how that ends up lining up. So as many of you may know, actually, and as we continue with water master plans and wastewater master plans, is that people are getting more efficient with their water use, which is a wonderful thing, and you see that trickle down through the wastewater side. So on the average day and the dry use during the wastewater, we actually see it reduced. But then again, with the infrastructure degradation, we see a higher peak. So we're dealing with a wider variance between the average to peak flow, which is challenging. And you'll hear me talk about that in a minute, about how we're addressing it here for your facility, but it becomes more and more challenging as time goes on. So you have these fixtures that are more efficient, reducing use, which is good for the average day, but as the infrastructure continues to deteriorate, it hurts you on the peak day, because it's all underground, nobody sees it, and your infrastructure continues to age and has to be addressed as time goes forward. Or the issue of having capacities that you're unable to treat and causing treatment excursions on your permit ends up being problematic for your permit with DEQ. So we'll talk a little bit about planning. So staff really did a good job with this. They took their time, which was appreciated, and it did take a while to compile. So we have really kind of a new planning map for the city based upon their input that they get from developers. Which developed all new future areas or what they thought that would expand. We kind of had an edict that we were going to stop at 2044. So they took their best crystal ball out, which was pretty good, and estimated all the future growths, where the corridors are at. And we have a little bit of both, primarily residential. There is a little bit of a commercial influence on the west side of the city limits along the 30 corridor, as you should suspect that to be the case, but primarily is you have a lot of residential influence, and it's what you have today. So it's important that we get the future areas identified, because as such we're going to project future flows for those areas so we can plan accordingly. So let's talk about where we're headed. If you sat through Matt's presentation, Christie Engineers has kind of shifted a little bit about how we say well, you need to do this in 0 to 5 years, and then after the 5th year, you have 6th, 7th, 8th year, and you got to get all this done within 10 years, and then in 10 years, you know. The fact of the matter is a master plan is a living document. We say that, and there's a little bit of coin on terms when we explain that, but we don't want to necessarily lock you in. So we have near-term improvements, which you see the price tag there, and then you have a total of 8 projects identified in near term, and those are really almost immediate need and things that need to be planning today, now, to start engineering effort on and be able to move forward, thinking about how you're going to loan, how you're going to get funding for these projects. Some are projects that are actually already ongoing, so the $49 million price tag that you see there, some of them already have loans in place, and we're going to break those down in a minute. And then the next series of projects for midterm is that next 10-year, 5 to 10-year span, if you will, for $12.2 million, and then in the long term, beyond that 20-year mark to slide you into 2044 is 6 projects. And those, to be honest with you, are things that are future planning considerations, but we went ahead and identified them for you as well too, as any master plan will. So here's the breakdown of where all the money is associated with your facility. So about half is wastewater treatment, and the other half is composed of your collection system, force mains, and lift stations. You can see that on the near term that there is the largest chunk. That's not altogether unusual that we see in collection system, because when they end up hiring us, as Mariah had mentioned, the last master plan was in '08. The last major infrastructure that was built at the wastewater treatment plant, we did that project, one of our former partners, in '08, '09, if I remember correctly. And then the project with biosolids, which the biosolids project wasn't that much, wasn't that expensive. It's, well, $2 or $3 million. So yes, it's expensive, but it wasn't just a huge capital project. And the reason you did that project is from a little bit of a permitting thing, getting out of the lagoon business, which that's what DEQ is encouraging all cities to do, is to not store their wastewater sludge in a lagoon. So we have midterm at 15% and then long-term at 22%. So we've got $79 million of costs identified over a planning period of starting today all the way to 2044. So let's talk a little bit about this hydraulic model that I mentioned. So RJN was our teaming partner on this project that did our hydraulic model for us. But it's very, very important because it's a simulation tool that we use to establish what is needed for improvements and to evaluate what you have in your existing system. So in the upper left-hand corner, I just did a couple screenshots so you could get an idea of some of the tools that we use in using the model. So we use in all the future and projected flow areas and area that we can't flow monitor for and get existing data, we project. So we're actually playing like that's a subdivision, if we will. We actually get the density based upon your zoning, and we plan for the R1, R2, R3, and assign the correct zoning to what we think it's going to be, and then we calculate what we feel like is the wastewater allocation will be for that development. And we take that data and we put in existing flow meters. We put in flow meters in your existing system, and we actually mimic your wastewater system as best we can. And what you see in the upper right-hand side is what we say is it's a hydrograph. You see at the bottom, does this work? Yeah. But it doesn't show up on the TV. But on the bottom, you see just like your wastewater flow. So everybody gets up in the morning, takes showers, washes dishes, go to the bathroom, everything of that sort. So you see that those flows, they just kind of rock along. Then they go to work, and they come home and do the same thing, cook, and you have water use. So and during the day, that will vary. That flow will vary through your wastewater treatment plant, and much similar is the same for your wastewater demand, and your water demand as well too. But you see those spikes, that's replicating what will be as a wet weather event. That's infrastructure. So you can see in this graph, that's almost a 3-to-1 or a 4-to-1 spike that's coming from your average day. But when it rains, the cracks, the separated joints, the cracks in the manhole, the lids that sometimes come off, or the crazy things that happen in interconnects, and somebody puts their gutter system and connects it into the sewer system. So what you see is a rainfall-induced peak, and which is going to set the hydraulic capacity of the plant. And that's what those spikes are replicating. So what we do is we take that water billing that we have on the existing system, we take and project that, usually use about 80% of that water billing for our sewer. We use that planning area, the planning projections, and then we model this system. And we ran all that wet weather event through the system. And then you see on the bottom right-hand side is a replication of your system at the 2044. And those red dots indicate areas where you would have a sanitary sewer overflow, or what you would indicate that your current system would be under capacity and unable to take the development. Okay. So we visited a little bit about the hydraulic model objectives and talking about the short-term flow monitoring. But the whole point of doing the flow monitoring is to be able to mimic and set a model up. It's not a perfect model. It's not a perfect simulation. But we tried to get it, and we modeled your system very well because we had a very good 2 to 3 very good rainfall events, and we were plus or minus 10% on all of our temporary flow monitors. That's a thumbs up because that's what we like to see. But when we replicate that and put it in the wet weather event, we always tell our clients, like, yeah, it's 10 or 20%. That's just the best that we can do from the engineering data. Maybe we get better. The genre or the generation that passes, that comes before me, maybe they'll get better at that, but that's what we always tell. So it is a planning tool. So we address deficiencies, and then we identify the project capital improvement plan to address those deficiencies. These are your current capacity restrictions. The existing conditions are estimating a sanitary sewer volume of overflow occurring at 8 manholes. I assure you that staff knows where every one of these manholes are, and they watch them and they look at them during every rain event. I think Tim almost walks every single one, for that matter, to know if there's an issue, because he's dictated a DEQ to be able to clean those SSOs up should there be a spill. That's estimated 0.55 million gallons of sanitary sewer overflow that's coming out of your existing system. And then for the 2044 conditions, including all growth, we have estimated at 2.42 million gallons of overflow that will be occurring in 23 manholes, or almost 3 times the number of manholes without capacity improvements.
And that's in 44?
Sir?
You're going to 2.42 million spilled in 44
Yes, sir.
on the existing system with no
Yes, sir.
improvements?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Trying to keep up.
Yes, sir. You can guys can stop me anytime. I'm very comfortable with that.
So,
Yes, sir.
real quick, because I can't see it, is that Raymar and Show Road right there, those 8 red dots?
There's a few.
Huh?
There's a few.
Okay,
It's a
making sure.
So what we developed is a series of capital improvement plans. This is on the collection system. It's a map, and you guys obviously are looking all at the screen, so you don't have it in front of you. But these are the projects. So we've got these projects broken down into the same terminology that Mariah has presented, or what we call the near term, that's 0 to 5. The next 5 to 10 is a midterm, and then those long-term improvements. And really what we're doing is prioritizing the biggest bang for the buck first, for the most part, and getting the most sanitary sewer overflows out of your system. So to be able to do that, we have improvements that are going to be scheduled for the wastewater treatment plant, which I'll be talking about in a minute. In the 2 projects that you've already started design underway, which is lift station 5 and it will be a parallel main, I think, and a new main that comes from the lift station 5 into the plant is currently under design. The reason for that is that there's 50%, approximately 50% of the volume for the entire city of Cabot, at least during the wet weather event, comes down that force main into the plant. So to be able to relieve the SSOs that are associated with that, the plant will need to be increased for hydraulic capacity with some improvements to the EQ basin, and the capacity of that lift station will be improved. I'm using that as an example. I could go through each one of them, but each project is separately identified in the report, the deficiency of that project, and a cost associated with the improvements. Yeah, sorry. I'm sorry. Saying that, you're funny. I'm not even working for Cabot. I have no idea. Matt is, but I'm not. I'm sorry. So let's talk about the design flow discussion on the wastewater treatment plant. So let's get some numbers here in front of you. So the current permitted design flow of the plant, and I want to make, and I always talk with staff about this, is that you have a biological component of the plant that's every day, all day. 3 MGD is what your current, that's million gallons per day is what you're currently permitted at. And then you have the hydraulic capacity when it rains. So when it rains, it's going to be much more than 3 MGD that goes to your wastewater treatment plant. So we have to be able to handle both, that wet weather event that comes through, as well as the biological capacity, because everybody still is flushing the same amount of toilets they are, whether it's raining or it's not. So you still have the same concentration, or you have a different concentration during that dry weather flow than you do the wet weather flow. So the average daily flow right now at the plant, based upon the last couple of years, is about a 2.4 MGD on average. And your current peak flow that you can handle through the plant today, the current peak that you can handle through the plant is, depending on the day and some other things that go on, is right about 3.2, which where the operators kind of like sit at. But we've pushed more than that, and you pushed a lot more than that in the April storm event as well too. So I kind of put 4 in there. That's where we pushed it. We pushed it that way for quite a few days, and then diverted to the EQ basin. So our 2044 projected average day flow that we recommend that the city adopt is at least a minimum of the 3.5 MGD capacity on the biological. And then on the peak weather design flow rate, we're recommending that they go up to 7 on process, and that's that hydraulic capacity. And then we will divert, if you guys have been down to the plant, we have a nice EQ basin available to us. So we'll actually divert 18 MGD of that peak, or up to 18 MGD of the peak, over into the EQ basin while we continue to treat 7 out the back door of the plant.
That's the triangle pond at the bottom.
Yeah, I'll go through here and we'll talk a little bit if you want to. So yeah, the EQ pond, boy, that red dot. The EQ pond is on your lower right. That's the 4 little white stars. Those are aerators on the picture. This is from our drone footage, by the way. And then in the central part is actually your wastewater treatment plant area, the little blue top. I'm just going to step out for a second. I know you two won't appreciate that, but this is your biosolids. So your plant biological function is here. Then when you come down, you have a chlorination and a dechlorination facility, but actually the contact basin and the DO basin for the disinfection is located here, and you outfall into a little tributary of Hurricane Creek. You discharge into Hurricane Creek. And then it goes on the Slade River. So the hydraulic capacity and the diversion and going to the plant and to the EQ is all based upon a target drain back time of our EQ basin. And I've talked a lot with staff, and we've had some really good discussions, is that they're hanging on to that wastewater a bit too long, and it causes issues in the treatment process that they have, that they know about. It generates ammonia, for one, and or we say nitrates is the other one that it can create, and then it's a little bit problematic. So we want to not hang on to that wastewater too long to not cause a problem process. So based upon the evaluation of how we approach the plant process and the capacities, a lot of consideration was given to the drain back and narrowing that window. I wanted to show you a little bit about this existing. I didn't really would have put this in the presentation, but I think this gives some levity to the cost about what we're dealing with. Is this shows you the last time really much was touched at the plant. So the EQ pond, although the aerators were added in 08, but it's been there for 33 years. The screening and influent pumps, they were commissioned in 08, 09, as I mentioned, that's 13 years. The grit removal is non-functioning, 26. So you can go through here and look. Now, although Tim made buying some blowers and buying some diffusers and things like that, but those are standard O&M items. That's not an upgrade per se. That's because something is wearing out, like a bearing on your car, and you're getting it replaced. You're not replacing the car or upgrading the car. You're just replacing what is broken in the car. So there has been some improvements, but as far as the initial infrastructure investment at the time, you're getting some age on your infrastructure, and it shows it needs to be addressed. So we evaluated 3 primarily alternatives for what we call the biological and the hydraulic process. Aeromod, just for some, is that existing treatment name that you have out there today. And we looked at what we call an A2O, which is a complete mix, and we looked at Bardinfo. All these are different processes that we evaluated. We did an initial screening, and we ended up moving forward with these 3 in evaluation, and we came up with a ranking, some objective, some subjective criteria, and working with staff. And really we came up with the top two are pretty close to being, in fact, I ranked them the same. You know, and staff, we went back when the improvements that we show in the master plan are all based upon the A2O complete mix, but I don't have any reservation about the aero mod process, you know, per se. They do not operate the same, and there's limitations and positives to both, but staff is very comfortable with the aero mod process, and staff is continuing to evaluate that, and should that demonstrate out and prove out, it may or may not, that we're very comfortable in supporting staff and moving forward with that evaluation. But back about 6 months ago, based on discussion at the time with staff, we ended up going with the A2O. And it's primarily a little bit cheaper to operate on the cost effectiveness. It doesn't take quite as much power. There is a little bit more of operational flexibility. But plant familiarity, plant staff familiarity does account for something, and it's strong, and it needs a strong consideration. So I've ranked both of those about the same, and they're both ranked about the same in cost as well too. So there's not a big differentiator in the cost side. The BART info plug was another $5 million, and we think the top two there would serve the city well, depending on which way that you end up going with and staff wants to move forward with. So based upon that evaluation, I thought we would talk a little bit about the improvements and just walk through what our plans are on the near term, the midterm, and the long term for Bryant. So you're currently, what we say is, you don't have enough sufficient alkalinity in your process. That's a very critical component to remove ammonia. And we know that. There has been a trial run. Staff has already done some trial runs and looked at some different chemicals. So we recommended that you move forward with the ability to provide supplemental alkalinity to the plant. That can be done with several chemicals, but primarily it's either a caustic soda or a magnesium hydroxide are two predominantly used. Lime's also used as well. It's not one of my favorites, but they did use lime in the bench scale trials as well too. The next is the headworks and grit removal. They will be currently undersized if we keep them, and plus they're reaching their useful life, 13 to 15 years. And those are mechanical pieces of equipment. The rule of thumb is that most mechanical equipment's in about a 10 or 15 year lifespan for most mechanical plants. So at that point in time, you have a decision to either completely refurb it or to put in some additional infrastructure cost to be able to replace it. We're recommending that those headworks be rated at the full peak flow capacity of the plant, so you can get grit removal and all of the screenings out prior to distribution to EQ or prior to distribution to process. Brand new disinfection and contact basin. These are undersized and are needing replacement. And then the last, the two are activated sludge and clarification. Those are kind of together depending on that is part of your biological process. And I'm going to got a couple different slides, and we're going to talk about leachate in just a second. But we have leachate treatment improvements planned as well. And then the midterm, these are aerated sludge. This has to do with biosolids. And then tertiary filter improvements and anaerobic selectors. These are under a future consideration. So what we do is that we provide DEQ a preliminary letter and try to get input back from them to say what is our new permit limits going to be. So this takes lots of time to do. 6 months to 8 months to get this. They took too long in my opinion, but they took about 6 or 8 months to get this letter back. And so we're kind of waiting around. So we went ahead and moved forward with planning for these improvements. They came back and said that those two constituents would be on report. That's great news. But you could very well go to, that constituent could go onto the permit, and they should be planned for. So that's why I say they're future considerations. And the dewater and solids processing improvements, they were the last to be improved on the plant, commissioned in 2017, and they're still in really good shape. You could do with another redundant, and from a cost perspective, another redundant centrifuge would be nice. Really haven't had to have the need to have a redundant centrifuge, but some redundancy out there could be a good consideration, and that's why I just put it as long-term. Should staff want to move forward with it for additional level of comfort in operations.
Question, quickly.
Yes.
Back 2 slides, where you were rating the facility, you said that the disinfection was marginal.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the reason, because they're not big enough?
The current hydraulic capacity of the disinfection system is rated at 3 MGD. So right now, the disinfection system is rated based upon the hydraulic capacity, not the biological capacity. So our improvements recommend that the process goes up to a 7 MGD treatment train hydraulically. And so the disinfection system would have to be improved accordingly. And the disinfection system includes gaseous chlorine. They do sulfur dioxide for dechloring, or chlorine out after it disinfects, and they also have a requirement for dissolved oxygen, and all of that's included in the cost.
So when you said that, went on that, just slide before, right, anyway, the one where you said the disinfection needed to be enlarged, so you're talking about the equipment, you're not talking about the size of the area, you're talking about the equipment needs to be.
No, the basin is undersized.
Okay, so that as well.
So in chlorine disinfection, you have equipment, you have a chemical that you put in to disinfect, and then it has a contact time with the bacteria, so it reduces the bacteria. So you have new equipment to be able to, we recommend that they stay with chlorine, which is the most cost effective, and we've also given them some options to go to an alternate chemical. Sodium hypochlorite is another one as well too, that is chlorine-based disinfectant, and then it has a contact time. So the contact time is 20 minutes at peak flow, the chemical has to be in contact with the wastewater. And then it goes post-dissolved oxygen, or post-DO to pull that chlorine back out, because that is a toxicant to fish, aquatic life, and then that contact time is 3 minutes. So both of those have to be incorporated into the improvements based upon your MPDS permit.
So what's the total time, a gallon in, a gallon out processed?
Hydraulic retention time well, depends on the flow.
Depends on, yes.
On a dry day, it's a minimum 25 minutes then?
Oh, no, it's much more than that. Through the entire process?
24 hours.
Yeah, 24 hours. Probably. They actually run a little longer than that. I think they're around 30 hours. So.
Yeah, 24 to 30.
Okay.
When it goes in, by the time it goes out the bats, 24 to 30.
Okay.
Wanted to talk a little bit about biosolids. This seems like to be some folks, it ends up being a hot topic at times with some communities because they manage their biosolids and how they manage it, but we did evaluate this. And when we did the improvement project in 2017, we took the opportunity to allow for Class A. In summary, is a Class A means that you can touch the biosolids. There's not really any limitation. It can be in compost, it can be used for fertilizer, etc. Class B has some public restriction. You wouldn't be able to touch it. It can be land applied. There's some different composted. It can also be used for compost. So there's a different limitation. But we evaluated a Class A application for you because it was requested of staff. You currently dewater your biosolids and haul it to the landfill, which is managed, I think it's Saline County landfill, it's managed by Republic. So what we concluded is that there's really not any big drivers for you to move over to Class A at the time, but you do have a spot in your process with the existing facility, or you can expand that existing building to be able to accommodate a Class A process. And we evaluated this as what we say is a lime stabilization process, which is nothing more than time and temperature. And it goes through a reactor and drives off the pathogen so you're able to handle the material. And then we just recommended that they continue to dewater and haul to Republic Services, Saline County landfill. That's the most cost-effective option for you now. It's 3.5 miles away from door.
Are y'all wanting to look at Class A?
Not at this time.
So let's talk about leachate challenges. This was a nice curveball that our staff got discovered as we move forward with the process. So you take the leachate, about 25,000 gallons, plus or minus, every week, Monday through Friday, and it's about 5,000 gallons a tanker. And what we took just a sampling live from the tanker while we were doing our study. And I thought I would go ahead and present this to you because I know it's sensitive to staff to be able to get this addressed, and we've had meetings with them as well too. But through that, and I just did a quick slide based upon, we did 6 grab samples, and just to show you on an average how much stronger the leachate waste is than a municipal waste. So in a BOD, the biochemical oxygen demand, 5 days, what we tested was 12 times is higher than what you would typically see in a municipal. It has higher total suspended solids, it has higher phosphorus, and it has higher ammonia. So currently what staff is doing is discharging this into the EQ basin. Now, there's a relationship here. They're taking your biosolids and they're taking the leachate. And we met with them, but they were hauling all this like in 2 days, and it was causing process issues through the plant. But now we've gotten them to spread that out through the 5-day period. They really didn't want to do that. And we've incorporated a testing regime for them to get a better handle on what goes on regarding the leachate at the plant. But we know that it has to be addressed. So we provided treatment alternatives for staff if they want to separate out the leachate from the facility altogether and pre-treat it. These have, each one of these processes have advantages and disadvantages. So this would be a small wastewater treatment plant on site for 25,000 gallons a week, 5,000 gallons a day. We'd probably have some EQ tanks. So there's some recommendations that we have on the report about how to handle this if you wanted to separate the process altogether. Conversely, you could take it into process as well too, which the biggest issue there is really ammonia and the spiking of ammonia, because it's ammonia, you have a very low ammonia limit, and staff is very well aware of this constraint. They operate, they're very knowledgeable about how to handle it through the plant, and it's working for the most part, but they have to be very conscientious. And every now, I think we had 6 ammonia excursions, meaning we violated permits 6 times over the last few years. And a lot of it, I feel, has to do with ammonia and the issue about handling leachate through the facility. So where we left it with, before I advance to the CIP, where we left it with Republic at the last meeting is that they have put in a composite sampler for us at their facility, and they are gathering data at the facility, and they'll be giving that back to us to make a further discernment about which way they want to go. And in the CIP that I've got presented, you do have this printed out for you in some packet. What Mariah told me, and I see that it's in front of you, is that I have not included that into the CIP because the cost associated with the improvements to treat that leachate is probably going to be on a contract basis or an arrangement between Republic and the city of Bryant for the improvements necessary to handle that. So it's not that $2.5 million, which is a cost that we came up with on 3 of the treatment options that were presented, is not included into the CIP cost, just to let you know. And that is still an ongoing, there will still be an ongoing discussion with Republic moving forward.
But they are spreading out during the week now.
They are spreading out during the week now, yes, sir. And I think that, as far as I know, it's gotten a lot better. It's not as burdensome on the process as what it has been in the past, so.
They're now hauling 5 days a week, sometimes 6 days a week. They're hauling up 3 loads a day unless they have to bring more, but then they call us. But they were hauling 15, 16 loads a week over a 2-day period. And now they've cut that back to where they're hauling all 5 days of the week. So it's spreading out the shop.
Spread out the day too, morning, afternoon, late afternoon.
That's correct. All these things were recommendations that we made, and they accommodated our request,
Lenny,
which is good.
I want to make sure I understand. So the county landfill is pulling leachate off the landfill and bringing that to you?
Yes.
Okay. And that's 25,000 gallons a week? Okay. Okay. Are they sending any to Benton?
No.
Okay. And they're paying us for that, or we?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
There's a surcharge arrangement.
Okay. Making sure I'm on, understand what we're doing.
So I'm presenting to you this evening a capital improvement plan that is reflective of the discussions that we've had so far. I've walked through each one of the projects. So as I mentioned earlier, we're heavily loaded near term on things that need to happen at the wastewater treatment plant. And then the 2 collection system projects that were identified and you're currently under design are also included in this lineup. Again, that, at pump station or lift station, you guys call them lift stations here. Lift station 5 is in pretty rough shape, and they went ahead and launched that. But we still have the hydraulic capacity that pump station will be able to deliver to eliminate SSOs would currently exceed the rated capacity of the plant. So staff is aware of this, and they went ahead and got going with the design, but it's important that we have some improvements in place moving forward for the treatment plant when that pump station goes live and we're able to eliminate SSOs during the peak wet weather event. The midsection there, the aerated sludge improvements has to do with additional storage for sludge, which can be included in part of the wastewater treatment plant as well too. It could be near term, could be midterm, it could move around, it could be deferred as well too. Tertiary treatment is there. We've identified that as $3 million in cost. Again, that's just a future consideration. We've told them in the master plan, we've outlined the criteria for that, but depending upon where you're at with the permit for the first 3 years of operation, that may slide into a midterm improvement. So in any permit, when DEQ, they're going to take at least 3 years of data and evaluate it. Then they'll come back and advise the city if it is a process that they think that it is required to implement. And then you have another 3-year period of time. So once you get the 5-year and the 3 year and another 3 year, it puts you into the midterm, and that's where we landed those projects. The dewatering process has moved into the last section. We did be more than probably 10 years out, and then we actually put the remaining of the collection system, which are really, other than the trunk main coming down the west side, which is force main related and pump station related, majority of those incorporate would be future considerations.
And that's for future growth.
Future growth. It's both. It has a little bit of both in there as well too. It has a little bit of both. So being the problematic area, I know that Spring Hill has started and that line needs to be upgraded. Leah Circle has started. That line needed to be upgraded. It's under capacity. So staff has kind of picked off the ones that they know were problematic and has started addressing them. So basically, and I don't know where staff is going to end up moving forward, but we've identified $33.6 million, $7 million worth of improvement of near term. Plant focused, I believe that 7 and 8, as Mariah said, have been obligated or a different funding source. So I don't know how that's going to fall into the rate analysis. And everything below that line will be plus 5 years.
If I remember right, we got plenty of room to expand at our current plant, right?
Oh, yes, you do have an adequate room. Absolutely do, sir.
Quick question on your population estimate.
Yes, sir.
Was that system-wide or just in the city limit? Because
It would be city limit based, that's correct. But we're coming up with a per capita evaluation, and then we apply that to the future projection.
Okay.
So initially, the way that we calculate the per capita base to get a volume of wastewater is based upon the existing, and then the future population and the future growth area, that was based upon some different sources that were identified in the water master plan, actually.
Now, we distribute water to a wider area than we collect or not?
We collect from a much wider area.
Yeah, it's the other
We have
way,
about
which is odd here.
1,000 plus more wastewater customers than water.
Okay.
It's usually flipped in most cases.
Yeah, over 1,000.
And I apologize for...
1,400.
1,800.
I apologize for saying Cat, but I always say to clients, I said, I wish you were my only client, but I couldn't function without more, so every now and then there's a fraudulence.
Well, you didn't say Benton, so you...
And for the life of me, I don't know why I said Cabot either. I apparently don't have a project going on with them, but our firm does, of course. And then that's my last prepared slide, and like I said, we appreciate providing services for you, and hopefully we're digging in hard this week to finish the master plan to line up with Mariah's schedule, which I was told a week and a half ago. But anyway, I think we're there with the reports. We're tuning those up, and I've told staff we're trying to get those delivered either Friday or the first of next week. But they're breathing hard, and they're going to be finished and delivered. So
You've only had since '08 to get it done.
yeah, that's correct. Well, we got hung up a little bit, with the planning doc, and that's always the case with municipalities, that they always get nervous about how far out do we go, do we account for this, how far do we, because you don't want to oversize, and you don't want to, because it's money, right? It's money. So that took a little bit of time. The leachate was a big concern and took a little time, and we just kind of, I didn't say we gave up on Republic. I think we made a lot of ground with Republic. But they've taken issue with the data, and that's all going to work out. But you got to move forward and get some projects complete, regardless of what goes on there. Anything else? Thank you. We appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
Mhm.
But we're moving on to public comments. No one wants to apply. All right. I don't see anything under old business. Move into new business. Public Works.
The only thing I have is the contact information.
Did you get everybody's, yeah?
Everybody, I need Nancy, Dave,
Okay,
because we can get them after.
okay.
Bring it forms.
Alrighty. I'm guessing project updates. Saline Regional.
You're up. You're up.
Saline Regional's still moving along like it was, still getting easements, Hot Spring County, working on easement documents for, what county are we in? Saline County? Yes, Saline County. We're working on the route still, but I mean, just kind of a slow walk. We've got about 4.9 million in county funds left. Still working on finding some bridge funding to get us to a loan from NRD. There's a lot of moving parts, trying to move them all at the same time. Any questions?
You're doing a good job.
Well, fine.
Okay. Any questions? Lift Station 5.
So lift station 5, the survey work is done. We also, the engineering firm we have working on it, we met with Jack Tyler, Hawkins and Weir, Jack Tyler, and DuParent Screens. Currently, we have a set of DuParent Screens that headworks at the treatment plant. We've been talking about doing screens at lift station 5 also, so they came out for a field site. And then Hawkins and Weir came 2 weeks ago to the treatment plant, so to see the process there. And so we have an update with them twice a month on Mondays, so they're moving along.
Leah Circle.
Deer Circle's going good, casing's under the railroad, pipe is in the casing. They're working back towards the treatment plant right now, generator's set. I think 2 of the manholes are set now. So, they got our back road closed down right now because they're crossing it, which isn't a big deal for us, but yeah, it's going fairly smooth at this point.
I like some good progress.
Yeah, it is. It's pretty cool to see.
Yeah, we have a planned headwork shutdown next week. Yeah, maybe Friday. We have to shut the headworks down so they can tie the generator and all the new electrical equipment into it. We'll be down 4 to 6 hours.
I think that's the end of my agenda.
I'll make a motion we adjourn if we're done.
I'll second.
Got a motion, a second, and a third. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? We are adjourned.